What advice would you have for establishing an effective collaboration when it comes to working with contract manufacturing organizations?
Yeah, so there's a few things I learned over the years, and
Hmm.
I have to say I am experiencing how these are changing also in the way that MSD is approaching partners. So it's definitely things that I would encourage others to think about. So I think one of the first mistakes that people do when engaging with partners is to treat them as just a supplier.
Hmm.
I mean, even FDA, there is a guidance, and they're very clear that the expectations should go beyond just a regular supplier, right, when interacting with partners. So, also from a regulatory perspective, there is an expectation to move away from that. But it's also something that, from a relationship perspective, I would really encourage. Do not treat the CMO just like um, a, a supplier. I'm paying for a service, I'm getting the service, and this is it. There is a lot more to that. So treat them as a partner. Even for me, sometimes when I talk, I use the word partner more than I use the word CMO.
Hmm.
And it's really a mindset. You need to get yourself into that mindset. You are all working together with the same goal. Um, and really achieving it goes beyond just what they are paid to deliver. And it's important that you establish the relationship at this level, that it is a partnership. It's not just I'm paying and I'm getting the service. So that's the first thing I'd say,
Hmm.
and that alone is going to make a big difference. That also brings with it that it is important to create personal relationships um, with the people at the CMO and vice versa. I think it's very important for the CMO as well to prioritize building these relationships with their clients, because it's going to help uh, to kind of get what you need. And that really goes both sides. There's things um, we need, there's things CMOs need from us. So it does help to have that personal relationship and being able, like, I give an example, like, not everything needs to go through emails, right? Sometimes it really helps to pick up the phone and have an informal conversation on what you need, why you need it, and why it should be prioritized. It
Hmm.
really helps and makes big difference. So um, do establish those relationships that really need to go beyond the business aspect. Then the other thing I would really encourage is to establish the communication channels. And this kind of ties back to what we were discussing before about the supporting and oversight model and how it should be clear which function interacts with which function. Um, this helps in the commercial phase. It helps a lot in the project phase as well, because if you try to establish communication and escalation paths when you have an escalation, it's not going to be productive. It's too late. You need to know upfront how to communicate and escalate something to avoid all of the charm that can be created around it that then generates time losses and loss of focus as well. Um, and on that point, another key item would be to be clear on priorities and also
Hmm.
act accordingly. If I have two products and I say product A is priority, I need to act accordingly as well as a client, because I have been observing situations in which we make it difficult for our partners when we have multiple products. We say one is priority, but we don't act accordingly, right? Then it's very difficult for the partner as well to manage an issue that may be leading to constraints in manufacturing of one product versus another one. So it is important that you don't just set the priorities, which generally is the easy part, but
Hmm.
you really work accordingly. Like, for example, there was a moment where we were working with one of our partners on two tech transfers at the same time. So luckily they were happening in two different buildings, so the interaction was minimal, but where they would come together was the analytical part. So in the analytical lab where methods were being validated, was the same for both projects. And since they were going at the same, more or less the same pace, that also meant we we found ourselves in the situation that the lab personnel many times had to prioritize one method for one program versus the other one. And this could lead to several weeks of delay because certain methods in the biologic space take a lot of time, especially during a validation where you have to establish all of your feasibility. So it can prioritizing between two different methods can result in weeks of delay for one program over the other. So
Mm.
when we came in, we gave clear indication that, let's call it program A, was priority over program B. But when it came to actually resolving the conflicts on the analytical lab where the priorities would really conflict, we didn't always act this way.
Mm.
At times, so they, because of the indication we had given, so I need to really acknowledge that the CMO was trying to reschedule their capacity in the lab, prioritizing always the methods for program A versus the ones for program B, proposing us the timelines, and then we would go back and revisit it all internally and decide that program B would take priorities over program A at times. And that's very difficult to manage because
Mhm.
then at some point this is going to impact your manufacturing as well. And it creates situations in which they would like to act according to the priority that we have provided, but they cannot because we didn't follow our own priorities during the transfer, right? And these things happen routinely. I mean, this is also something that happens during commercial manufacturing because you get tied to resolving what happens in that moment instead of having more of a forward looking kind of approach, and say, okay, yes, now I'm taking the hit on this product, but that's going to help me deliver on the one key priority I have. So I
Mm.
hope that this could explain, but
Yeah,
I think
absolutely.
it's a situation where we find ourselves routinely without even realizing, and it does lead to a lot of delays and also relationship issues because then situation get and discussions get
Yeah.
tense.